Hello, Montgomery Catholic. I'm your school president, Justin Costanza, and I'd love to take a few minutes to spend some time talking once again about school safety. I know that you've joined me for videos, long emails, the State of the School presentation, and today, as we approach graduation and the end of the school year, I owe you another update. And so I want to talk to you about what has happened over the last 9 months at Montgomery Catholic, what we see coming down the line of the next 3 months as we approach a big exercise, a full-scale exercise here at Montgomery Catholic Thursday, July 30th, and want to talk to you about what's gotten to that point, what has gotten us to that point, and how we will prepare for that. So then I'd like to discuss just an Alice update, and then a little bit about the weather that we've seen recently and how that is part of our emergency response and our emergency preparedness. And we learned that we're doing a lot of things really, really well. We also learned that you can never predict everything. And so flexibility, training, that helps with our preparation. And so, again, thanks for tuning in. Buckle up. I want to give you as much information as I can in as little amount of time to really reserve your time, respect your time as much as we can. So let's talk first about the training exercises that you have heard me discuss, where in October, we reached out to the EMA, the Emergency Management Agency for Montgomery County. They've partnered with Montgomery Catholic, and they brought multiple agencies to the table. So this is a part of a broader response that Montgomery Catholic had, but I'd like to discuss this one in particular and how it's played out over the last few months and into that full-scale exercise. We had our first planning meeting with the EMA and those agencies in November, on November the 7th. Our initial planning meeting consisted of EMA, Montgomery Catholic representatives, as well as Montgomery Fire Rescue, Montgomery Police Department, the SWAT team, local representatives from the hospital organizations in town, as well as EMS. And of course, ALEA is always included, engaged, and involved, and those local organizations that support any type of medical transport, and then of course Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. So all of those folks were invited, brought to the table, had representatives here for a 1.5-hour planning meeting in November. At that meeting, we scripted a year-long, really about a 9 or 10 month plan for how we would implement ultimately a full-scale exercise at Montgomery Catholic, where we trained our faculty and tested our faculty and supported our faculty and really allowed the entire community to train, test, and support the emergency response related to what will ultimately be the equivalent of an active shooter event at Montgomery Catholic. And while that's not anything that we want to have to prepare for, we'd rather be prepared and mitigate as many risks as we can in advance. And so that's exactly what we've done. As you know, I don't want to take it for granted, you may or may not understand our ALICE protocols, where that is basically the system through which we train our teachers to and our students to respond in the event of an emergency. How do we alert them? How do we give them the information to be able to respond? Do they counter the C in ALICE? Do they counter? Do they evacuate the E? Sharing that information allows them to make decisions for sure. And then is it possible that they might need to lock down? So alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate are all options. The best scenario is when we are able to alert and inform, and then results in an evacuation where our students can get to predetermined safe places, those rally points at each of our campuses. And so we do this with K-3 all the way through 12th grade. And so our students have been tested and pushed and drilled all year to make sure that they understand how we respond. Our teachers and our students have been given those scenarios to make decisions, and you can't ever do that enough. It's just like a fire drill. There hasn't been a death of a student or a faculty member in a school fire in more than 6 decades, I believe, and that's also something we test and drill every single month for a reason. So how do we do the same for these critical incidents that we want to know how to respond to? So when we bring in EMA and work through this build up to a full-scale exercise, we are testing and we are emphasizing the steps that Montgomery Catholic already has in place to respond. And so that the ALICE protocol is a large part of what we're doing. So we bring in EMA, and then we work towards the ultimate full-scale exercise, and I want to walk through what that means. Initial planning, about halfway through. There's a midterm planning. We did that about a month ago. On March 11th, we had our first of 2 tabletop exercises. So imagine a 3-hour scenario with about 40 people in the room where we present a scenario, and then we did the recovery. What happens post-event? Such and such has happened. Now we've got 300 students. We've got 200 families. We've got to communicate. We've got to work with these agencies. We've got to reunite. We might have to transfer from one position to another. We're working with PD, Sheriff's Department, Fire Department. We're working with local organization that is helping contain the risk, but also then treat the injured. None of that is simple. None of that is easy. And so it takes a lot of coordination. Well, the tabletop exercise allows us to literally sit in a room. We did it at the Montgomery Catholic Library at the high school campus, and we had a number of school representatives as well as representatives from each of those agencies. At the tabletop exercise, we also invited representatives from the safety team for Montgomery Public Schools. And so MPS was also at the table. It's been a great collaborative process. We have then had about 4 other meetings, which are non-consequential to the process other than it's allowed us to build out these scenarios. It's allowed us to build out what do we want to see in July, what do we want to see at the 2 tabletops. May 27th, so just a short time from now, during post-planning, we have invited a number of our faculty to join us as well. So we'll have probably 60 plus folks at our next tabletop, and that's the response. Again, here is the situation. How do we respond? And each of those 2 tabletops also then have an after-action meeting where EMA comes in. They facilitate a review of what was learned, and then they also identify for us what are our opportunities for growth. So after each of those 2 tabletops, we then get a report that says, hey, Montgomery Catholic, if you want to be better, this is what you do. We've already done that for the recovery. Again, that was March 11th. We've had the after-action meeting in April. We're excited about the tabletop for the response, May 27th. And then shortly thereafter, we'll have that after-action report meeting as well. We've set deadlines for all the areas of improvement. We've set deadlines. Now, our goal is to improve those or to identify our response to those if it was a vacancy, if there was a hole, before July 30th, before the full-scale exercise on Thursday, July 30th, so that we can have the most complete training possible. Again, then, we'll ramp up, go through a couple of final planning meetings. We'll train the controllers, the evaluators. We'll have a master scenario event training. All of those specific events, those are individual trainings and meetings. So the folks from EMA are going to end up with about 9 or 10. The shortest is an hour. Many of them are an hour and a half to 3 hours in length. In that final scenario day, it'll be a full day, 8 hours or so. And so lots of work that's been put in on all accounts by fire, rescue, MPD, Sheriff's Department, EMA, ALEA, SWAT, the hospitals, EMS, incredible, and now MPS as well. So I need you to know that those things are happening. I failed March 11th. I should have taken the pictures from that event, posted them to let you know, hey, look what's happening behind the scenes. I've asked you to trust us that we're doing it, but this video is to show you that we are and to keep you included in the process. So we have been doing quite a bit. I will tell you, our first kind of report card that I would love to share is that EMA has been really impressed with the level of training that our students and our teachers have received and the ability for Montgomery Catholic to respond to just about anything they throw at us. And so that's been very encouraging. And I want to share this from a community standpoint. These exercises are not just powerful for Montgomery Catholic. If something happens at Montgomery Catholic or any school in Montgomery, all of those responding agencies then have to work together to coordinate and communicate effectively. Well, those organizations don't get real life practice very often. And so while there are incidents in the city, nothing to this scale. We certainly don't want to see anything to this scale. And when there are, they learn. But this is a chance for each of these agencies to test their own training, to evaluate their own skills and knowledge, and also the effectiveness of their communication setup, their leadership. And so Montgomery Catholic and the community here in Montgomery are just going to be huge beneficiaries of knowledge and experience on Thursday, July 30th. So as always, if you have questions about that or you want to know more, I've made myself very available. I'd love to be available to your questions, your insight, your thoughts. One thing we are not doing, which I have had this question and I just want to be honest about, is we're not going to have observers on that day from the general community. We've had some folks that we've invited, but there are players, there are actors, then there are participants, and then there are observers. And we do have to be very careful about who's here. One of the things that we will do that day is we will invite the media to tell the story, because it'll be very special, it'll be very unique, and it's something to be proud of. But it's also something that Montgomery can be proud of, and so you'll start to see it as we get closer to the end of July. So know that when you hear there's lights and sirens at Montgomery Catholic on Thursday, July 30th, we knew what was happening. We want the world to know that this is just an exercise, this is just a drill, and so we're super grateful to the folks who have made this possible. So that's a very quick update on lots of work over the last 7 months or so. So since that initial planning meeting on November 7th, a great deal has taken place and still more to come, which we're very excited about. Cannot say enough about the Emergency Management Agency and Montgomery City County EMA. They have done a fantastic job of working with Montgomery Catholic. So I mentioned too that we continue those ALICE drills. Your students at all grade levels have continued through the year to ramp up their decision making in each of those ALICE drills. So we want to throw at them now diversions, distractions, and deviations where they have to make a decision, just like on a fire drill. I always exit the room, I move to the right, I go out the same door. Well, what if the fire prevented them from going through that door? Well, on their feet, they have to make that decision. They have to know where to go. So at all three campuses, we have done that in the last few months as well, so that it does not become just this cookie cutter response every time. We want to, again, in ALICE, we want to alert and inform so that decisions can be made. And every classroom makes their own decision. It's not one decision for the entire school. It's per teacher, per student, per classroom, per scenario, because those details, that scenario is unique to them. Some of our schools have a unique scenario where they have an external door for their classroom. Some might be upstairs. Some might be separated from one building to the next or at a sports complex. And so we would then exit appropriately if possible. As we mentioned, evacuation is the key. And then we rally. So I want to just real quick give you some things to talk about at home. Make sure that you're asking your students about these drills. Make sure that they know that, they're asked to make decisions. They're following the instructions. The importance of remaining calm and quiet in the event of an emergency, and why it's important for them to move quickly and deliberately, and why leaving their stuff behind is okay, and some of the things that might be hard especially for our young students. And then ask them about their rally points. And you, as parents, we want you to understand that when we leave the campus, we move to a safe place where we can rally, where we can take attendance, make sure that we know who we have, who are we missing, who might be injured, who is in a different place, how do we communicate amongst each other. I will tell you, at the recovery tabletop, a little over 2-hour event, some of the hardest parts of that scenario is how do we account for everyone? How do we make sure that we communicate then effectively between, at the high school, 2 rally points, and that is not easy. How do we prepare now for the unthinkable? How do we prepare now for a scenario that we really can't plan, but what are the variables? And how do we eliminate as much risk as possible? That's what these tabletops are all about. So really, really impressed with the work that we've done. But there's always more to do. And you as a parent, we want you to have these conversations at home, talking to your student about those rally points. Ask them about where they go when they leave. If I go out the back of the middle school, am I headed, towards the bypass to the church? They don't know the name of it. Or am I headed towards Vaughan Meadows, towards St. James, up Vaughan Road? They may not know the name of that church, but they know where to go, through the park and across the woods. It's not a song. It's truly their rally point where they head. But it's not easy either. Our elementary students would be very scared, would be very, they would be frightened in an event like this. And so we want to make sure that they believe in the adults in the room, that they understand what we're asking them to do. And that's where I kind of want to end. I really want to brag. We've had a number of medical and weather emergencies at school recently that have highlighted that our training is working, that our students are ready, and that Montgomery Catholic is poised to be successful even when we are tested in ways that we don't want to be tested. So a couple of things kind of to brag on and just to mention, we had a medical emergency during Mass at the high school that required calling 911. And it was one of those situations where it could become hysterical quickly, where confusion could set in, where people would assume someone has called 911, but because there's so many people. But you have to be prepared to delegate and designate in scenarios like that. And we did. It was really impressive to watch our teachers, our parents, and our students. Shout out to Father Joseph, who came off the altar, actually anointed a parent who was having an emergency, and then we finished Mass. So we talk about being prepared for the unexpected. We had a medical emergency with about 450 people in the DBC, parents, students, faculty, one priest, and then we had an ambulance and a fire medic as well. But it was beautiful too, to see our training come to life and respond so well. Also a very good result from the medical emergency that makes it a little easier as well. But we've also had medical emergencies with students where other students have to respond, where other students provide care. To do that well, you have to be calm. You also have to have a sense of love and compassion for one another. And so I cannot brag enough on how impressed I am with our student body, the love and care that they share for their own students. Situations where we've had to call an ambulance to the school for a student. And it's scary. It's really scary in an elementary school for a parent here in the high school. Or if the weather calls for an emergency response. So I really want to brag. On May 6th, we ended up with over 40 students at the high school campus. Some students that were here for the first time because they were elementary students trying out for volleyball. We ended up with a tornado warning that was a little unexpected, and we got to bring the campus together. We were able to get to our safe place. We were able to monitor the situation, but it also forced us to think, do I know who is in our care? Do I know who is located where? Do I know in the event that we experienced damage, who I'm looking for afterwards? Do their parents know where they are? This is after school. This is after school with a variety of students, really elementary age all the way up through seniors, and then some parents who we invited in out of the parking lot. Very grateful for the parent support, for the way those students responded, and for the faculty who kind of helped make all that calm and quick and uneventful. We love uneventful when it comes to emergency situations. So again, I owed you an update. I owed you kind of a status report, and I want to begin to encourage you to kind of stay tuned to some of the updates that will come out of these two tabletops. The next, again, May 27th, and then the final full-scale exercise, July 30th, where Montgomery Catholic will really kind of put ourselves to the test the best we can. And while we will absolutely fail miserably at certain things, we will be identifying weak points, we'll be identifying opportunities for growth, and we will make ourselves that much better. You trust us with your most precious objects, your children, and that is never taken lightly by myself, by our principals, by our staff. And whether that's a coach on the field of play or a kindergarten teacher or anywhere in between, please know that at Montgomery Catholic, your student success and your student safety is top priority. We do that best through focusing on faith. We start there, and the rest falls right into place, and it takes trust. And so I thank you for your trust. Thank you for your support, and I thank you for taking the last few minutes to spend some time with me on this update. Thank you all, and go Knights.